Welcome, everyone. This is Jeff St Laurent, and in just a minute, I'm going to bring on a great friend of mine, Dana Cavalea. And I just want to jump right into that as soon as we can. But just to let you know, I do record all these Tuesday live shows. And I put them on my website, sellingcoaching.com, under the university. So check those out. And also right on the homepage, I have a great resource for you, and that's launching your full-time coaching business, the first 3 vital steps. So you enter your name and email, not only going to get a direct access to that, but you're also going to get on my email community, so you get a real good idea of what I'm doing and also how you can use email to stay in touch with your community. But I don't want to talk about anything else because my guest today is a phenomenal guy. We met back, and we were talking right before we went live. I think it was like 2016, which seems weird. It's like 3 years ago. Who knows? It's probably even more than that, at a Ryan Lee event. Both of our mentors, you could say that, Dana. And we met there and created some conversation afterwards, hooked up on the phone, talked about business, talked about some things that he was doing, things like that. And, fast forward 3 years, he's got his book out, Habits of a Champion, which we'll definitely be talking about today because I am a big fan of the book as I've been reading it. And used to work as a performance coach for the New York Yankees, world champion, I should say, New York Yankees. So Dana, welcome to the Tuesday Live Show.
Thanks for having me. I'm a big fan of the show. So it's nice to come on, see how this thing operates.
I love it, man. It's funny when I get the book and I'm like, dude, I want a signed copy. I love it whenever I work with people or connect with people. I've got my library behind me, you can see. And all my clients or people that I've met and people I've spoke with, I make sure I always get signed copies. And I love it. And when you say there, thanks for the Tuesday shows. And I'm like, dude, that's so cool.
Yeah, you gotta customize it. I realize that people love when you send them a book, and you can make a little, association and connection to what they do. It goes that much further. It shows people that you're actually watching what they're doing every day. You're in it with them. You're in the war with them.
I agree 100%. And, and that shows up, we'll get into the book in a second, but it shows up in the philosophies you share in the book. It shows up the personal piece that you bring into this with some of the philosophies there. Like if you respect someone's time, you respect them, Yep. Things like that. So what I want to start off with, because, obviously my audience is coaches like yourself, and, they're growing their businesses, they're starting their businesses along that different way. And, you coming from the world of, professional baseball, being on a great championship like the Yankees. I'm from Boston, so I have to bring that up.
You guys got
I should wear a Boston hat. You should wear a Yankees hat. But, but being in that world and being at such a high level, performing with such, professional athletes. And then if you were retiring from that world and going into the world of saying, okay, now what do I do? And I know when we met, you were going through some of that, like, all right, so how do I harness, my next phase or the next chapter of my professional career? And now, fast forward 3 years of writing the book, you just told me you're writing another one. So talk about that path for a little bit as we jump out before we get into the book and actually what you are doing now. Yeah. Because I know that was a big transition for you.
Definitely. So, I always like to say I got into the field of coaching because I was an underperforming player that relied heavily on coaching. And I realized that I had some great coaches who really helped me kind of take the sponge and get everything out of it that I was able to. And I had others that, really just sucked. And I started to think about what makes great coaches great, what makes bad coaches bad, or not effective, rather. And, that's how I approached my whole coaching career. I went into coaching because I saw the impact that it had on me, and I saw the impact that I was able to have on others. And it's kind of the field that keeps on giving back to you. Now, it's a lot of work, and a lot of coaches sometimes don't view coaching as a full-time job. But even if you're doing it part-time, it's a full-time job because, the people that you're coaching are looking for everything out of you. They want your best. Even if it's an hour, that hour could drain you. I had a consult yesterday with a guy that runs a big hedge fund, and I scheduled nothing else before or after him because I knew that was going to be a drainer in terms of my energy because I wanted to give him 100%. Yeah. So coming back, again, I spent my whole career in professional coaching. So I always approached it like a professional. And, I spent 12 years with the New York Yankees. I work with a lot of high-level athletes. But in addition, when I left baseball, I had to make a decision. Do I want to get back in baseball, maybe with another team, or do I want to explore some of my other passions? Now, at the time, I had 5 training facilities where we were training athletes and executives and leaders, in the Westchester, New York City area. And I said, you know what? What do you love to do? Do you love to run the business, like the day-to-day management of it? Or do you like to get in the weeds and actually coach people? And it was at that point I said, you know what? I'm selling these facilities because to manage 1, I could do easily. To manage 5, I had to rely on too many different people. So ultimately, that is what led me into what I do now, which is, I decided to leave, the field of professional coaching at the Major League Baseball level. And I moved into the coaching in more of a privatized manner where I get to work with athletes that need my services, and I get to work with, hedge fund, private equity, Wall Street guys that need my services. And then I work with emerging and current leaders in the business world that want my services. So I have a very diverse and eclectic population that I serve, but they all have one thing in common. They want to be winners and they want to be champions. And that's my job to help them become that, because that's what I pride myself on. And that's really what I do.
Yeah, you can tell that's what you do, and it goes into everything that you talk about there of just that transition. Because a lot of people will be like, "Oh man, you spent your whole life, getting to an elite level, working with some great organizations, some great people," and it talks to a lot about you following your passions, following your heart, of saying, you know what, I don't want to do that same thing. It's like I could, but I want to pursue what really lights me up, what really fires me up, and you're still using a lot of those same habits, philosophies, etc., but you're just channeling it in a different avenue, right?
Exactly. And I actually feel like it, when you're in the world of, professional baseball, there's a lot of tape around what you can do, what you can't do, because there's a lot of contracts, there's agents involved, there's money, very large sums of it being exchanged. So you can't coach 100% with full transparency. There's always there's a little 10% that you have to hold back. And now I'm able to unleash that 10% on the people that I work with, because I don't have, the laws of bureaucracy holding me back in any way. So I can feel a lot more free and tell people really what they need to hear.
Yeah, like right from your voice with your own story.
Yeah. Listen, man, I found that when you shoot people straight, and this is how I work with the guys that I work with. I mean, I work with team owners, guys that run hedge funds that are $5+ billion, and nobody tells them the truth. And for me, I have nothing to lose. So that's how I really made a name for myself, is just telling people what they need to hear and what's going to create the biggest positive wave for them in getting the results that they want. And sugarcoating it, false optimism, that doesn't work.
Yeah. And that's what I've always respected about you right from when I met you, was you're down-to-earth guy. You tell it like it is. And you're straightforward with that. And that's so important. And especially when you play with, if you will, higher level athletes and executives like that, they don't get that often, because so many people are trying, they've got their own agenda, right?
100%.
And your only agenda was their agenda, to me, that's the definition of a true coach.
Yeah. And you have to really align with them. It's like, I tell people, like I had a guy last night, I'm like, listen, I'm your personal coach. We ride together, hashtag team, like, let's go to battle together. So many people feel like they're in the boat. The analogy I use, they're in the boat rowing, and they've been rowing for 20 years without a break, a lot of these guys. So they're exhausted. And I say, let me jump in the back of the boat with you and grab 2 oars, and together we row. Yeah. And that right there, you can see just in their facial expression, they go, oh, finally, somebody gets it, So that's how I look at things.
Yeah, and I bet you it's hard to find is that authenticity that people like that require, and that's what you bring. I can tell that.
100%. And I will say this, the demands of coaching at a high level and going all in with people, I think what oftentimes coaches don't realize is how much energy that takes from you, and that you have to put into that relationship. So really, the fact that my background is, performance coaching, strength and conditioning, I always lead with the physical. I get people physically right. If they're overweight, if they don't have energy, if their nutrition stinks, if they have dietary issues overall, I addressed those first in my coaching philosophy. But what I really wanted to get across to all the coaches on the line is if you're going to be a giver and a high performance coach, you first need to be a high performance person, and you need to make sure you're taking care of yourself physically and mentally, so you have that much more to give. Because there's sessions they'll drain you. They'll take everything out of you. But if you do that enough times, you're going to end up train wrecked.
Absolutely, man. And let's bring in the book, because as I've been reading it and as you're starting to talk about this, I can see, I'm like, oh, that's what he talks about in his book. Where was it? Number 7, Fit to Win, right?
Yeah.
And things like that. So, I mean, I got to say, man, like I'm not a reader. Like I listen to things. That's how I comprehend things. And I'm like, yeah, I got Dean on the show and I got his book. I'm like, it looks cool, like, hello. But I'm like, I want to start reading this. I want to just start, dive into this a little bit and see it. And I got to say, man, and I'm not saying this because you're on the show. I'm like, I started reading this thing and I'm like, this thing's good. Yeah. And it fascinates me because, I've been in the fitness industry, way back when in my former life, if you will, and I trained athletes. I always would have liked to have considered myself an elite athlete, but it's the mindset. I mean, right from the opening that Joe writes is just about, it's going after it with a whole new level of intensity, and some of your philosophies about, not loving to win, but hating to lose.
Yeah.
It just, in the depth and the stories that you share. So I don't want to talk about it anymore. I want you to say, what do you talk about the process of this and what you put into this? Because this really, like, as a coach myself, this really started to help me see it at a different level, especially because of the place that you came and the people that you worked with.
Yeah, no. So, when you say, where does it come from? The first place it comes from is here. And it sounds very cliche, but I'm so sick of reading books that are like perfect world stories that are based on classroom theory and coaching philosophy, as opposed to like, hey man, this is real. Like, this is what it was like. This is what it's like to get kicked in the gut. This is what it's like to actually fail. And this is what it's like to come back from the darkness and put light back in your life. And you can only do that by following your gut and following your own heart and following what you feel you're called to do. And I wanted to make that very clear from how I opened the book. Was like, listen, I have the same issues that everybody else has. Time management, holding on to some things from the past, overcoming myself. But there was also a point where I realized that I needed to pivot. I needed to make this exchange and start moving forward towards what it is that I am supposed to be doing. And when you know what you're supposed to be doing, you start to accept that, listen, the road is not always going to be, filled with daylight and no obstacles, detours, or roadblocks. But if you know what you're supposed to be doing, you go anyway. You don't care. You just focus on those 3 feet ahead of you and you just keep stepping, and you build something over time. And that's what I realized. I wanted the book to be basically a tool that athletes could read, coaches could read, business people could read, all people that are looking for high performance, that are pressed for time, that could open the book anywhere and take a lesson and give them a little bit of a kick in the butt and a little bit of a pat on the back at the same time and say, come on, let's go. Like, come on, let's go. Move. And that's what we all need. And, when you watch the videos on YouTube of people that are, telling you, you got to do this and you got to do that, they're almost coming at you oftentimes as if their life is perfect. And in telling you, I've worked with the best. It's not perfect. The richest guys have rich guy problems. Athletes retire. I know guys that retire with $50, $100 million, and they go through wicked depression. And it's real. So it's almost a shame that nobody has a conversation with people from the standpoint of reality and saying, listen, this thing called life, it's a battle. Whether you're a coach, whether you're an accountant, whether you're an executive, no matter what you are, get ready for battle. Get ready to fight. Prepare yourself. And then now let's go get going and let's make the magic happen here. And get on your path, impact, one person at a time. And it may take you a little longer to build your coaching business or any business. But if you know that you're on the right path and you're where you're supposed to be, things will start to align for you. And that is a very, very important thing that people need to realize. And that's what I wanted the book to symbolize, a a book of battle and a book of hope at the same time.
Yeah. And it is because they're all like real stories. So they're not like philosophies or habits that you're just like, oh, I read this somewhere sometime and I'm using it. It's like, they're all like, about a player or a story that you had where, they told you something. Like one of the ones I liked the most was, and I forget who the player was, but regardless, you were in his home stretching him out.
Yeah. Mariano Rivera.
What was it?
Mariano Rivera.
Yeah. And you're like, how do you do it, man? How do you do it? And you've been wondering that since you're a kid. And he's like, it's simple. Right? I'll let you finish it off. But to me, it was so stupidly simple.
Yeah.
That it was like so profound.
Well, let's look at it like this. How many people that you coach and maybe you're on following your show get jammed up because they're overthinking or they're putting too much thought into the roadblock? And Mo simply says to me, he's like, Dana, this was the one that changed my life. He said, what you focus on becomes real. There are no big situations. The big situation is what you decide is a big situation, but every situation is the same. So when you get blocked or you get jammed or you feel like, oh, I can't go forward, realize that you're probably scared to death, sometimes even of success, and you're over-focusing on the magnitude of what you can't do instead of focusing on the process and the steps of just moving forward. Don't put the emotion into the roadblock or the magnitude of a moment because every moment's the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love the philosophy behind that because it's, one's not any bigger than the next, and then especially as a pitcher, right?
Yeah.
It's like, the 3 steps of like drowning out the noise and just it's one pitch at a time.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what happened on the previous one. The next one is a brand new one. So you got to focus on what you can do in that moment.
Exactly. And I realized, in my journey, I had a chance to work next to some guys that, man, I remember as a kid, I'd watch these guys play. And the next thing you know, I'm with them. I'm like traveling on their personal planes, on the team plane. I'm at their houses, and I'm seeing how they live life. And I said, man, I feel like I was so misinformed as a young up and coming, coach and young up and coming business guy and even a player when I played, because I thought I had to be working all the time. Work. And that's what gets me where I want to go. And I saw these guys double down on what they're great at and actually balance hard work and focus with a lot of time to just relax and be and enjoy their life. And I was always taught differently. Like if you're not working, somebody else is, and they're getting ahead of you. And I saw the great balance that these guys had. And I said, man, I'm definitely missing something. So again, I'm working with these guys, the best of the best, the 10-plus year players, even the guys that run big companies. Man, they have such a balanced life, and it's not operating exclusively out of fear. It's operating out of a clear vision and passion and a commitment to what they feel they should be doing and are supposed to be doing.
Yeah. And I know you talk about that in some ways in the book where you talk about like days off, and I might be paraphrasing, but days off or days off.
Yep.
And it makes sense. It's like if you're on a day off, like take the day off, don't work.
It goes against what, again, I think society or the gurus or the guys, that are, have the 1 million followers tell you is, you got to grind, you got to get after it. If you're not grinding, then you're never going to make it. And it's not true. I'm telling you, I've seen guys that have net worths that are huge take days off and rest and recover. I have one client I mentioned in the book, this guy owns sports teams, and he told me he's a religious Jewish guy. And on Friday afternoons through Sunday, he's off. He doesn't do anything. And Friday and Saturday, no tech, no technology, no phone. He basically built a business worth billions of dollars that he took public, working 4 days a week. And he was home for dinner every night. That was a very important thing for him. So you get the chance to create your own rules and how you want to do it. And people forget that.
Yeah, and I'm glad you're reminding them with the book. So, with the book, I'm curious. So it goes over really it's 12 habits of a champion. Of all of them that are in there, I know which one I resonated with the most. They're all great, but I'll tell you afterwards. I'm curious for you, like especially as the author, which one for you is maybe the most personal or was like the biggest one for you?
Yeah. I have two, but the one that comes to me right now is never get too high and never get too low, because you'll be drained in terms of your own energy and your own psychological state if with every great thing you get high and every time something doesn't work out you get low. It's a very exhausting ride to be on. It's like being on a roller coaster all day, up, down, up, down, up, down. Eventually you're just totally gassed and smoked. So I realized that in studying the great players and the great people, that it's about consistency, consistent mood. Good things are going to happen, bad things are going to happen, but just play the midline. And if you do that, you won't be so volatile. You won't be going to one side of the spectrum and then swinging back to the other. Because again, I know there's a lot of coaches on the line and there's people that are trying to start their own business and everyone's at different phases. Some may already be running a thriving business. But no matter where you are at, I opened with a woman that told me a story. She's 90 years old from Florida. She lives in my parents' community down there. And she says it doesn't get easier. So don't think now that I have success, it's going to get easier. Or now that I have 5 clients, it's going to get easier. No, you're just going to have, a couple more bucks and new problems that you're going to stress out about if you desire, if you allow yourself to get too high or get too low. So that was a big one for me.
Yeah.
What about you?
And I think that's so important really to take away with this is that, like you're saying, whatever level you get to, whether it's another zero on a check or another level in a career or in a relationship, there's always going to be problems and challenges along that way. So in order to be successful at those levels, and this is what I get from this and from everything that I've learned is that you've got to have the right habit. You got to have the right mindset to handle everything along that way, because it's never going to be easy, right?
Yeah. And sometimes and oftentimes, less is more. And I take that to mean like, listen, you could have a lot of clients, but have a simple process. Less is more. Don't always think that you have to keep complicating things and getting more, just getting yourself nuts. When you break down what people want, it's just basic communication and it's support. And it's your job as a coach to communicate clearly with them, give them objectives, and then at the same time, most importantly, support them. And if you can do that, you could have a client for a very, very long time.
People first, right?
People first. One of my clients this morning, he's, again, runs a big company. And, his wife's going in for surgery today. I texted him first thing in the morning. Hey, I'm thinking about you. I'm thinking about your wife. Please let me know how things go today. Done.
Those little things that make a difference, right?
People first. Yeah. But everyone's looking for this like crazy coaching philosophy. But it's like, hey, man, the most important part of the coaching is the people and the relationship and the dialogue and the support and the care. And that in itself will get you more clients than you will eventually know what to do with.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. I love to hear it, man. One of the philosophies that rung out for me was find the bully and knock him out. Yeah. I don't know exactly what it was, but yeah, that's my version of it, right? And you just go after like your friend that whenever he would change schools, he just found the bully and just knocked him square in the face.
Yeah, and he's a great guy. This guy, he's he came to the United States from Argentina. He worked with Guggenheim Private Equity, and he went to Boston College to play soccer. Didn't even speak English. And created an incredible, resume, financially set for life. And that was the story he said. He said, listen, never get walked on. And remember, basically, how do you keep a bully in his place? When you first come up to him, you knock him out. And that could just mean standing up to him. But really, in the book, the bully is meant to be fear. So we all have bullies in our life. Let's just realize that fear is probably our biggest bully. So don't be afraid to lean back and crack them one.
Dan, it's awesome. Before we start to wrap this up, I want to put your website up here and just tell people if they want to go, obviously buy the book or connect with you for anything. How do they get a hold of you, what you do?
Yeah. So DanaCavalea.com. If you buy the book on the website, I'll give everyone, it's VIP discount. They could use that code at checkout, but I will sign the book if you order it through the website, or you can get it through Amazon. it's on there as well. And if you do, write a review. It's always helpful. Yeah, so you can reach me there. I have a YouTube channel. I have everything is accessible through the website. And then, yeah, what I do is I coach coaches, I coach people, but differently than what you do. I don't teach people how to be a coach. I actually help to keep them healthy and fit to become coaches, so they can support themselves personally in their journey to help others. But really, the book is something that I'm most passionate about, and I know it can help a lot of people, and that's why I'm writing another one. But I'm also pushing this one because I just it's my words, man, and it's something that I put my heart into, and I want to share that with people.